My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Hey, let me ask you this. Do you have a house full of junk, treasures, crap? Have you inherited a bunch of stuff from a deceased relative? Are you wondering where to put stuff? Well, if you've ever had any of these questions, as I have, then you're probably familiar with self-storage, but you're not as familiar as our guests today. We've got Ben Salzberg and Bill Kanatas. They are zooming in from selfstoragedevelopers.com, and these gentlemen are exactly that. They are developers who build dirt to doors, I believe is how Ben put it, creating self-storage facilities. So gentlemen, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for us to be on your show today. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invite.
My pleasure. So gentlemen, we'll kind of figure out who's going to answer what. I'll let you guys arm wrestle for that privilege, but let's just start out right now. We're in the middle of the year already, 2025. It's just rolling by. Give us a snapshot of what your company looks like. Like, I don't know if you guys do build to hold or build to sell developments. If you're holding them, how many do you have on the go right now? If you just build them and sell them, how many have you got in process of being developed? Just kind of give us an overview of what the business looks like.
Excellent. I'll take that one, Ben. So our company, you might refer to us as merchant builders. So we build and sell them, but we do that for a reason. We're trying to create wealth vehicles for our investors where they can come in, get out, redeploy the money again, and then continue to go to another one, potentially with a 1031 exchange. So we have one that's operational right now that we've opened up a couple of years ago, putting it on the market in the springtime. We have another one that we already closed on earlier this year in January. We're currently developing one right now. And again, like Ben said, dirt to doors. So it's a ground up construction, 120,000 of gross. And we have probably about 5 in the pipeline right now, looking to close one in September. And the other 2 probably early spring. And depends on the capital and the investors and their goals.
Right. Okay, well, very good. So Ben, the build to sell model, are you planning to continue doing that? Or are you going to end up holding some of these long term? What are the thoughts moving into the future with?
Well, it depends on our investors and the structures of each deal. I mean, definitely, hold in the future. But right now, like Bill was talking about, merchant builds, we build them, we sell them. There's some investors that may want to hold it with us. And so we're open with that too. But we're definitely, the model is such a great model and such a great asset class that, building them, developing to hold is an option for the investors. But right now our structure is as a merchant build.
Merchant build. I think that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. So it's really you build them and you hold them for about 3-4 years and then you sell them.
Okay, so you build them and then you get them all stabilized and optimized.
Correct.
Maximize the value of the properties and then sell it for profits is the idea. Got it.
And I want to add something else. The exit strategy are the REITs and the third management companies, which are Public Storage, Extra Space, CubeSmart. They're the ones that usually will buy these classes because there's a Class A facilities over 100,000 square feet, about 900 units. So they're very large, climate controlled, and they usually buy them. And the investors love to know what the exit is, and the exit usually are the REITs.
Okay, that makes sense. So paint me a picture of what these properties look like, because a lot of us, we have a variety of different impressions of what self-storage looks like depending on where you live and what you've been around. You talking about Class A, B, and C? You guys build Class A?
So the Class A, similar to the one in the background here.
If people are watching YouTube, you can see that, but you might have to paint a verbal picture of that there.
That's I keep forgetting about that sometimes. So it's Class A, 2 or 3 stories high, drive through, and people love to unload in climate diverse areas, which climates are really bad, such as rain or winter conditions, and they want to have shelter, and so they have like drive-in facilities or drive through and drive in that you can unload and air conditioning, good climate, and put in your storage facility. So they're very beautiful, and we usually have music playing in the unit, so to make people more, feel at home and be able to, go to the unit, enjoy the atmosphere. We want to give people, a high class facility.
Yeah, makes sense. So, Bill, what kind of markets are you guys looking for, and what kind of pieces of property you're looking for to develop these kind of projects?
Sure. We're typically a target about 3 acres to do a ground up construction of them. We'll pretty much go anywhere. We're a national builder, but we're looking for areas that still have growth. People are still migrating there, but there's a lot of areas where you don't have that migration, you don't have that growth, but there's a pocket that's been overlooked. You got to keep remembering, when you talk about who is your client in self storage, you talked a little bit on the introduction, but basically in self storage, we say the 4Ds. So you got your death, your divorce, dislocation, and downsizing. So somebody's always going to have a life event, regardless if you're in a growth population or you're just in a population like here in Chicago area where it's not growing as much. It's stable, but you still have those life events that people want or need.
No, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody else in the field a while ago, and they were saying something that's up and coming that they're seeing a lot are younger folks who, because of the pricing of housing, they're living in very like these little mini condos and micro apartments and these kind of things that just have no space whatsoever. So a lot of these folks are renting storage to keep their skis, their mountain bikes, their the stuff that just doesn't fit where they live. And what he was saying is, where it used to be like somebody'd show up once every 6 months to their storage unit, now these people are coming in every weekend to pick up their toys to go play on the weekend. Are you guys seeing any of that kind of stuff as well?
Well, we do. I mean, Bill can talk about that too. We see it all the time. Matter of fact, I go there about a lot of times my own storage facilities. I go there, about 2 or 3 times a week because I have camping equipment and other outdoors equipment, and I store them in the outside or in the facilities or indoors.
Hmm.
And so I do it myself.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's that garage we don't have when we live in an apartment building or something like that. So cool,
Right.
cool, cool, cool.
Right.
So, gentlemen, I imagine a big part of your business is finding investors and raising capital for these kind of projects. Um, I guess for folks who aren't familiar with it, what are the big benefits over self-storage development versus, in your mind, versus multifamily development or industrial flex bay type spaces or different? I mean, there's a ton of different asset classes in real estate.
Right.
Why did
Right.
you guys pick self-storage?
Well, I could say one thing though, Dave. Our motto is that we don't just build storage; we design wealth vehicles, and that motto is specifically for self storage.
Yeah,
And
why?
self storage is such a good asset class because of the rate of every unit of storage unit has a different rate, and you can adjust those rates at any time. And
Mhm.
unlike rental, you have a specific rate for the entire year. It's not like that in self storage.
Right. Well, to Ben's point, he's 100% right. So multifamily, give you an example. We love multifamily. Everybody's talking multifamily, and I believe in it, and we need it in this country, right? But the reality, it comes with a lot of problems, right? You have turnovers, toilets, trash, legal risk. Somebody doesn't pay you, you need to get them out. You have to go through the whole court process. It's not like that in multifamily. We have 900 units. If we lose 10 people in a month, nobody's panicking. If you have a multifamily building, and even if it's a big one, you got 50 or 60 or 70 units there, you lose 10 people, you're starting to panic. And
Yeah.
if you can't get them out and you have to go through the eviction process, and nobody wants to throw anybody out in the street, you really care about that person. You want to hear the problem. But when you make that mortgage payment, your bank's not going to listen to your problem that your tenant's not paying you. Here, we can evict somebody in 30 days. You can, put the lock on them. It's month to month. And the difference to your point, Dave, you're talking about what is the advantages of self storage. We can depreciate these assets a lot quicker than multifamily. And the reason is you have, these lockers and all these moving parts. So under the current laws, we can depreciate these a lot faster. That goes all to our investors. We also have operational losses the first couple of years. because until you get to that stabilization period, there's losses, there are operational losses. That all goes to the investors. And then later on, when they want to sell it, it's a capital gain, and they like us, they want to stay with us, then they can 1031 into our latest project. So there's a lot of advantages of self-storage versus like your typical multifamily.
Yeah, well put. Thanks for explaining that there, Bill. So, uh, what are some of the challenges you guys have talking to potential investors or LPs about these kind of projects when they're just really kind of familiar with single family homes or multifamily apartment buildings or other asset classes? Do you find it challenging to get people turned on to self-storage or not so much?
I mean, I could talk to you personally. I think it's more educating people because they
Okay.
don't understand the type of class this is.
Hmm.
So once they figure out what this is exactly and the per capita and what that means and the IRs and how much they get compared to multifamily and the exit periods and the hold periods, they understand all that. Then they usually say, "Aha!" There's an aha moment. Say, "I want to talk to you."
Mm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm beginning. It's just education to get to people to educate them all, and that's why I hope to do it. And your show right now, Dave, is to educate people on self storage.
Well, nothing's ever perfect, you guys. It's not all sunshine and flowers 24/7. What's the crappy side of self-storage? Especially new ones, because I mean you're building big, beautiful class A facilities, but there still must be a challenging part to the business. What would that be?
To the business or to the development side or to both?
Everything and anything.
Sure.
What are the
Well,
challenges?
the development side is very challenging no matter what you're developing, right? It could be self-storage or it could be, mobile home park, right? It's
Yeah.
getting through the bureaucratics with the villages. And then once you finally get through there, is there any surprises along the way? So Ben and I do a lot of work up front before we close on a piece of property. You really need to understand what you're buying, the land. You got to understand the neighbors. The neighbors might not want to self-storage. They may not understand the self-storage. Prior to developing self-storage, we did car washes, and the neighbors all thought that you're going to have loud radios out there and people are going to be listening to their music and cars are going to be revving. And they're like, we want nothing to do with that. So when we sit down with the community, we bring our beautiful pictures. And I think it's really, really important as a developer to deliver what you tell you're going to do to the community or to the village. Because everybody goes there with their pretty pictures and says, this is what it's going to look like. By the time it's done, it may not be as pretty as you present. So I think that's important. And then with self-storage, it's a business like anything else. It's important to have security. It's important to have communication in place with your customer because at the end of the day, you do have a customer, right? They want to know when they show up, it's going to be a clean facility. It's going to be an open facility. It needs to be safe. They don't want to be looking over their back that somebody's going to mug them while they're inside. So Ben and I kind of stay away from those B-side facilities and really try to make them professional. Ben loves technology. He can talk about technology all day long. So security and stuff is very important.
Yeah, very. Now you mentioned villages. So are you guys building out in smaller communities as well, or is this more of an urban type thing?
Well, we're talking about villages, but like the one we're doing right now, the 3 Mile population is over 70,000 people. So, I mean, it's a big community. They're
Yeah.
just called villages. So small cities or villages, whatever you want. But no, we're not doing it in the rural areas. It's all in, inner outer cities,
Yeah,
outer
you got to have the
counties.
Yeah,
population.
it wouldn't be good building a 900 unit facility with 800 people. I
No,
don't
I
think
understand. I
that
was just
works.
confused
Yeah,
by the terminology of village
yeah,
there because
that's
Sure.
my
okay.
definition of a
I just want to
village.
make sure that people understand that. No, we need to, we look at the analytics. I'm a statistician. We look at the analytics of population, the monetary, how much money people make, family income, and all that stuff, a rental income. So all that goes into a site selection to make sure that it's in a proper area.
What's kind of the ideal occupancy rate for self-storage in the areas that you guys are focusing on? Because I've heard different numbers kind of thrown around. What are you guys shooting for?
Are we talking about a dollar amount or an occupancy level?
Occupancy level, percentage wise, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So most people say if when it hits 70%, you're, I don't want to necessarily say stabilized, but it's a stabilized asset.
Mhm.
But the difference between like a multifamily and a self-storage facility, you want to get the people to come in, so you discount it. And you do have the luxury, as Ben pointed out earlier, to raise the rates along the way. So even though you hit that occupancy level, it may not be the optimal time to sell it. So I think the optimal time to sell is probably when you're about 90% occupied. But certainly, a lot of these guys are buying them at certificate of occupancy. They're buying it, early on in the stage because you leave a lot of meat on that bone, and they're able to increase the rates and increase the occupancy, so the asset's worth a lot more money, which is fine for us. Because back to being a merchant builder, if you sell it in a year versus 5 years, you still may hit that targeted IRR. You're exiting it a lot sooner, and it allows us to
Then
deploy
it
the
gets into the
capital
next
again.
one. You can
Yeah,
recycle
yeah,
that capital. Makes a lot of
absolutely.
sense. Sorry, Ben, it looked like you're ready to
Well,
jump in
no, I
there.
was about to say that, the IRRs here are very high, north of 20%, 22, 23, depending on what the unit is. Cash on cash is greater than, 32, 33%. These is a great, like I said again, money maker for this particular class. I just want to make sure that listeners understand, this is it's a different type of product. It's not multifamily, and that's what makes it so great because it's
Yeah,
just so many great moving parts to this particular product.
right. And I've
No,
built
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say I've built for 30 years as a developer. So prior to that, I mentioned the car washes, which by the way is another great asset class. But I've built retail strip centers, office buildings, office condos. We've done complete residential, single family homes where we've actually brought in the water, the sewer, the streets, and built the whole community. We've done townhomes, and of all the asset classes, I love this the most. This and boat and RV storage, which is what Ben and I are now starting to do with one of our projects in California. They have a boat and RV component to it.
Very cool. Are you guys familiar with? I interviewed somebody last week, and they're getting into pro storage, is what they call it. But basically, it's like larger storage facilities that are geared towards contractors and people like that that are
Yeah.
getting priced out of, flex warehouse spaces and that sort of thing. Are you guys looking at that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, we have looked at that flex storage. They usually have that through flex storage type of product and asset class. We've looked at it. We're still talking about it. REITs are not yet in that particular arena. I always look at the exit of these
Yeah.
particular product, and it's still a class that is not unknown, but it's it has to be put
A
into a
little bit
different
new.
area.
It's not very mature yet. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
it's good for the three of us. We bought it and we did it as our business, right? But if
Yeah.
you want Public Storage, who basically has $4 billion a year in revenue, they're not doing that. They're not
Yeah,
operating it. They're
They're
not
not going to be
buying
buying
it.
that from me anytime soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
smart. So you focus on where there's a demand. You got your exit plan very, very well figured out. So
Yes.
no, that makes a lot of sense. Hey
yeah.
guys, if people want to connect with you and find out more about what you're up to with self-storage, where should they go?
And
You should go to www at selfstoragedevelopers.com. SELF dash selfstoragedevelopers.com.
Perfect. We'll make sure we got that URL in the show notes. Bill,
Awesome.
Ben, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having us, Dave. Appreciate it.
thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.